I'll just go ahead and call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is calling a meeting to order. I'm the chairman of the policy committee for the Commission on Disabilities and Special Needs. We appreciate everybody who bothered to take the time to be a part of our committee here today, and or at least to listen to what we have to say here today. And we will go as quickly as is prudent, but this will not be a short meeting, I don't think, today. After the call to order, the next item on the agenda is the statement of announcement. And who do we say was going to do the statement of announcement today?
That would be me, Sir Commissioner Malphus. Colleen Honey.
Go ahead, Ms. Colleen, please.
Okay, the meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place of the August 10th, 2021 Policy Committee meeting was distributed August 6, 2021 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided for individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Thank you, ma'am. The next item is the invocation, which I'm going to do very quickly. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to help those with disabilities throughout this state. We are blessed to have each one of them, which one of them can be here today to listen to what we're saying and to be a part of our agency. And we pray that we'll do what's right for them throughout this day and throughout all the work that we do for the commission. And I'd like to thank all the members of the commission for being a part of it, as it is a volunteer job for us, but we enjoy our work to try to make a difference for those with disabilities and special needs. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I'm going to adopt the agenda if I hear nothing, no objection from anybody, in about 5 seconds. The agenda is adopted. I've said many times too that under Robert's Rules of Order, in the 12th edition on page 48, it talks about unanimous consent, which is the way we do these meetings, to where if we do not have an objection, then we move on. But we encourage those on the committee to object if they object to adopting anything that I say, and then we will do a regular vote as normal. Otherwise, it's simply to keep from saying the same people keep from saying motion and second, since there's only 3 people on the agenda. I mean, on the committee. So it's a very, it's just a shorter way to do the agenda whenever it's this few of people on a committee. But anyway, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the summary of the notes. This is the different thing we're doing this year that we did not do last year. We always keep summary of notes of the committee meetings, but we have not been adopting them, and all the other committees are doing that. So we decided to follow suit and start doing that. It really is minutes of the meeting, but it's called a summary because it's not full minutes. It's called a summary of the meeting, which is similar to minutes, but not exactly the same thing. But I hope that everybody's on the committee's had a chance to read those minutes or that summary.
The only thing, Commissioner Malphus, I'm not seeing that as part of the packet that was emailed out, and it refers to tab 1, and I'm starting, I guess, with tab 2 on the packet that I have.
I can send it right now, sir.
That'd be fine.
Colleen.
Thanks, Colleen. I'm just not seeing it. And it could very well be the case that I'm missing it.
Oh, sorry. David, did you see the minutes? What it was called summary of minute of the policy committee, or you didn't see it either? David, are you there? I don't see David on this group of people.
I think Colleen's going to send it out right now to everybody, just to make sure that everybody has it. So you should have it momentarily.
Well, that's fine. I just want to make sure David's with us, because I don't see him on this list. Are we sure he's there, Mike? Or are you there?
Yes,
Hey, we think he's on the phone, right?
he is here. He's on mute.
Okay, well, he needs to, okay.
He just raised his hand.
Okay, I didn't see it. All right. Oh, I see it. Okay, all right. That's fine. Okay. Well, I guess we need to take a second and let you look at this. Let y'all look at this if y'all didn't see the minutes. I mean, if y'all didn't see the summary of the meeting. I've read it. They seem to be proper to me, but I'm only one member out of three.
I heard David briefly there.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you now, David.
Well, yay! I've been trying to do star 5 and star 6s, so thank you.
Finally.
So somebody did something that got me through. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'm gonna say that if I don't hear an objection, we're gonna approve the summary of the last meeting. If there's no objection, if there is, we'll stop and let somebody finish reading them. But to me, they look fine. So if there's no objection, I'm going to give it 5 seconds and we're going to move on.
Yeah, if there's something that pops up afterwards, but I'm fine with circling back to it.
Okay.
David, did you get them the notes from the July 13th meeting?
I don't think so.
They were in my packet, but I don't know if they were in y'all's or not. But I get mine on paper, so it's different.
Is it supposed to be under tab 1? I've got July 16.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So maybe, and David, you get yours delivered in paper as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Just didn't come in. That's fine. That's fine. We'll circle back. We're good, Barry. I have no objection to going forward.
Okay,
it's fine.
All right. If there's no objection, we're approving the summary of the minutes from the July 16th meeting. The next item on the agenda is under old business, and it is the committee procedures that we have talked about. Every committee has procedures that they need to approve each year, and we are trying to officially approve ours for the year. There's only a couple of small changes that I've that was recommended that we make for this year, and one of them was what we went through just now, which was to approve the minutes, or the summary of the minutes is more accurate that we just did. That's one of the changes for this year. The other change is that under item 3, it says after the 10-day public review period, staff will consider each comment. It used to say respond to each comment, and we changed it to consider each comment as needed, because we may forget to respond to one, and that would be technically not following our policy. So we wanted I thought it was important we change it to consider, so that we wouldn't be obligated to respond to everyone if we didn't want to.
I presume, Barry, you're on tab 2, page 2. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Tab 2, page 2, that's right. Sorry. And then that was one change we had. And then on page 3, it says, on page 3, same tab, David, it says, we basically, we're keeping a list of obsolete policies and standards and directives, which we've been doing for the past year. We just didn't have it officially in this document. And we want to continue to do that so that we'll know which ones we deleted. I think is a prudent thing to do. And then on the same page 3, the meeting summary, which I just talked about, is what we just approved. And that's the only changes I had from last year. I don't know if there's any other changes or discussion about those 3 changes that we had decided to make. If not, I'm going to approve this as our official procedure for this committee for this year. And then when it is ready for all the procedures to be done at one time, we will bring them before the commission, which I'm hoping will be not this meeting, but next meeting. I'm hoping it'll be by September that we will be approving it for all the committees. There's probably, for all of our standing committees, I should say, there's 2 committees that have not. One committee I know has not met yet, which is the Legislative Affairs Committee, but they do have to meet in order to do this. So I'm hoping they'll meet before the September commission meeting. But we will hold this not at this meeting, but the next one in order to get it approved. So, but it will be ready once we do this. So if there's no objection, we're gonna approve this. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to object, and if you object, please do. If not, I'm gonna move on. Hearing no objection, we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the outside employment, which is the next in the same tab. The next policy is outside employment. There are several things that relate to outside employment that we changed from the last time we had a meeting. And I don't know if I need to go through each one, but primarily it relates to the fact that somebody can take a job and then they'll reevaluate it from that time, rather than we decide that as long as it's not a conflict of interest. There is a lot of things in here relating to conflict of interest, which is the primary reason for the outside employment situation. And I mean, outside employment directive, and a lot of this comes from a code of conduct policy that some of this comes from a code of conduct policy we have. All the stuff about that comes from a code of conduct policy we have. It would be the other thing I wanted to bring up is that it would be possible to make this policy part of the code of conduct policy, but the problem I see with that is that we have to get it. You have to get it approved in order to be technically approved in order to have outside employment. So we don't have to get the code of conduct approved, and so I don't know if it should be the same document or not. Although you'd be surprised how similar it is if you read the code of conduct policy we have. But I suspect we would just leave it as a policy like we've been talking about for the last several months. But the other thing is that there's a couple of changes which I assume everybody has read about. We have 5 days to make a decision now instead of 10 days. Once somebody decides they want outside employment and they have a special email address they email it to. And like I say, there was several things about conflict of interest that's in here. There's several definitions about what family members mean and what individuals with disabilities means and those sorts of things. And that is that's pretty much it. But as far as the changes that we made since our last meeting, I don't see anything wrong with this policy like it is. I don't know if we'd want to. The only other thing I would ask is that if we don't want to make any changes to it as a committee, do we want to bring it up at the next meeting, or do we want to wait till hopefully Constance is back at the next meeting to bring it up? I don't know. I know she won't be here at this meeting coming up, but I don't know if she may be back at the next one or not. And so, do we want to wait till she's back, or do we want to bring it to the commission at the meeting coming up?
Barry, the issue, this is David speaking, on page 6, which I think is the gist of the problem, is we don't want to bar someone getting a second job to supplement their income and then having to wait on somebody in the inner sanctum of the bureaucracy of DDSN to give approval. Now, this says the general counsel to approve or disapprove from the office of general counsel within 5 calendar days. You know, here's a bit of a problem. If the general counsel has to give an approval or disapproval within 5 days, what if they give an approval, but then upon consideration of it, realize, wait a minute, we shouldn't have given approval for that? Does the initial approval that they were hurried into giving in 5 days, is that superseded by a later reconsideration? That's number one. That's from the perspective of the department. But number two, I still don't like the idea that departments given approval for anything. It's only if they saw a conflict that they should be able to, on their own accord, begin asking some questions about potential conflict, and then perhaps bring that to the attention of human resources about whether or not the employee wants to keep the job with HHS or wants to keep a job with the conflicted or otherwise unsatisfactory entity. So my problem is I don't want to stand in the way of somebody getting the job at Hardee's to supplement their income. It's the same thing we brought up a month ago, and have to wait and not be able to say, yeah, I'll take that job, but rather I'll take that job, but I've got to submit an application to the Department of to DDSN, Department of Disability Special Needs, to get approved. And the guy said, look, the job's here. I'm going to give it to somebody else tomorrow. If you don't take it now, we got to have somebody. So I think it becomes an impracticality.
What it says, David, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could be, but it says you can accept the job, and then within 5 days, we will let you know if we have the agency will let you know if they have a problem, basically.
Actually, it's beyond that. They can accept it. They just have to apply within 30 days, and then it's 5 days from when the application comes in. So it can be any time within the 30 days following their acceptance of the position.
I mean, we did fix that, David. They can accept the position, and then, like he said, it is, you're right. Sorry about that. It actually is 30 days. They have to decide. That we have to decide whether there's a problem or not, and then we have 5 days to give them notice. But now your other issue is not solved here about giving permission in general. Now I'll say this: if we do not have to give permission, if we're not going to force it to be made to where you have to give permission, then I don't see any reason why this policy wouldn't be part of the conduct policy. I mean, that's something else we'd have to work on for another day. We'd have to get with Lori. I have to get with Lori on that. But if we're not going to give, the only reason I didn't want to make this part of the conduct policy is that we had to give permission. But if we're not going to have to give permission, if we're just going to tell them down the road we have a problem, if we do have a problem, then this needs to be a part of the conduct policy. It just needs to make the conduct policy bigger. But because there's a lot of good things in here, but it should be a part of the conduct policy if that's the case. So the real issue we have to discuss here today, if I'm not mistaken, Lori, is rather we want to make the agency give permission at some point, or rather we want to make them decide if they don't have permission, they'll bring it back up later. Does everybody understand what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I think I got what you're saying, and also just to address David's concern about us giving permission at all for anything, and it does sort of throw a blanket over all employment. But I guess the problem, David, with your issue of, well, we find out that a conflict exists and then we take action. What I like about this is this proactively requires them to report to the agency that they're seeking this employment, rather than telling them, well, you only have to report it if there's a potential conflict, because then you're putting the onus on the employee to make that decision for themselves and self-police. And that can either be subject to a mistake, or, quite frankly, in my opinion, that's where you run the risk of somebody abusing it. I like that there's that affirmative obligation on the part of the employee just to let us know. And if it's a job at Hardee's, that should be a 2-second approval. But if you've got somebody who's opening up, a therapy subset or has got something like that, I think it benefits us as an agency that we are proactive in making them tell us about it. Unfortunately, giving them discretion runs a risk that, in my opinion, is not taken.
In which of these items, what's the option that the agency has? So the agency says, well, we disapprove, so they give written disapproval. I suppose if there's a conflict, does that mean then that where's the authority that the agency has to say you got to quit the job that you took as outside from the agency, or we will deem, or you will be deemed terminated from, or have resigned from your position? I mean, what option does the agency have once it sees that there's a disapproval?
Well, it says up to and to include termination. So we technically could terminate somebody for having a second job that we thought was a conflict of interest. Okay,
I missed the up to and including term. Where is that? Let me, is it A, B, C? Where is it on page 6? Is it on page 6?
It's probably on page 6, but I gotta look at it. It does say up to and including termination.
It's the last paragraph under abuse or violation. Paragraph C.
Is it D?
It's on.
Oh, okay.
It's abuse and violation. Number 7, David. Page 7.
Yeah.
Read A, B, and C of page 7. That's what it talks about. That. But there again, if we're not going to have that, this needs to be part of the code of conduct policy. It doesn't need to be, a policy. But to me, anyway, we just need to see if. Personally, I don't disagree with this like it is, but that's just my opinion. I don't always agree with Gary, but in this case, I do. But I'm not trying to prevent anybody from getting a job at Hardee's either. I'm not trying to prevent anybody from getting a job at a fast food restaurant either. I am concerned about conflict of interest, though.
Yeah. I think what staff has crafted here actually strikes a very appropriate and nice balance. And it doesn't restrict anybody from doing things, accepting job. It just says that once you get it, you got to let us know about it. And it gives 30 days to do it. I think that's plenty of time to fill out a form that's provided. So I think it strikes a nice balance without in any way discouraging people from doing that. And it gives us the notice that we need. I actually thought the staff did a really good job taking the concerns that we had last month and adapting this to what our concerns were. I think they did a very good job.
Yeah, those concerns are in red, by the way. So I think Susan did a wonderful job, and the rest of the staff, whoever helped her with it, did a wonderful job with this situation myself. But we really have to decide whether we're going to this approval part, because if we're not, like I say, if we're not going to have this approval part, this is a different document. But if we are, then then we need to bring it before the commission either this month or next. I mean, it certainly could be next month, but I'm trying to get it off of this agenda because we got other things to move on. Not today, but I'm talking about in general. I'm hoping that.
Well, I think in reading the thing in its totality, I think it's fine. They can take the job. Then
Right.
they got 30 days to submit the thing. Then within 5, then they're supposed to receive. If there's pressure on, it's on the part of the department that's got to look. I mean, suppose they get 150 requests in a month. That's a lot to go through to make sure that within 5 days they're.
Well, David, we're probably going to have an assistant attorney here in the next few months, and so I think that assistant attorney would have plenty of time to do that myself.
I hope that's not all they're doing.
I mean, I hope that's not all they're doing either, but I'm just saying that we are going to have one. It looks to me like in the next few months, and I think that'd be one of the things they could do.
And again, I think the vast majority are going to be pretty straightforward, right? Unless it's something in the
I
industry,
think so too.
it's going to be an easy approval. If it is somebody's doing Walmart or daycare or there's lots of stuff that don't. I think most of these will be looked at. Yep, that's fine. I imagine that's going to be the vast majority of these. So
it is from what I understand, it is as of now. There's really we really haven't had a lot of problem with this anyway, but a lot of other agencies have this policy, and so therefore we're trying to really bring ourselves up to them, but we haven't had a big problem with this as I understand it, unless Lori knows of something she wants to bring up or something, but I mean, I don't know of anything.
Well, all right, I'm fine in moving passage of it.
Okay.
Same. I don't know any reason why we don't. I know Constance is out for good reason, but I think we can present it to the commission as is.
Right, we do have in writing from Constant that she is in agreement with the outside employment directive as revised. So she's seen this revision and is in agreement with it. And she doesn't agree that it should be inside the code of conduct policy. So we do kind of have that in an email from her from right before she left. So
I'd request that we consider this for approval then.
Okay, well then I'm going to say that we'll move it to the we'll make it we'll approve this policy and we'll move it to the next commission meeting in the next week or so. If I don't hear an objection, that's what I'm going to do. So we will I'll give it 5 seconds, and if we don't hear an objection, that's what we'll do. Okay, moving on. That's what we'll do. The next item on the agenda is the code of conduct policy, which we basically discussed. The only reason for that was relating to for today was relating to that situation about whether we wanted to combine it. And since we decided we don't want to do that, then the code of when we move on. Except that I will likely put this code of conduct policy on one of our agendas in the near future, but it won't be today anymore of that. The next item on the agenda is relating to the bylaws, which David and I have been concerned about regarding emergency meetings and regular meetings of the commission. Special meetings and emergency meetings of the commission, in order to prevent us from having to use the word emergency meeting when it's really not an emergency, we are trying to use the word special meeting, which is in the which is in the code.
It's in the code. That's in the code.
Right, of Freedom of Information Act, that's right. And this just what we're trying to change is our bylaws to bring it to what the code says in the Freedom of Information Act. And so we would say that special meetings of the commission will be held at any time upon call of the chairman or by request of two members, provided more than 24 hours notice of the time and said place of the meeting, yada, yada, yada. If it's more than 24 hours notice, it'd be a special meeting. And if it's less than 24 hours notice, it would be a emergency meeting. So the only time we'd have to use the word emergency is if it was a 24-hour meeting or less. And that is provided in the it basically changes from 5 days to more than 24 hours is what it basically changes our bylaws to, because before that it said we had to give 5 days notice, and now we're just bringing it down to more than 24 hours notice. And so I think 24 hours or less would be an emergency meeting.
And you're on tab 3, page 20, number 3. And
that's right. Sorry. We're on that's right. On the commission bylaws. That's right. And Stephanie, by the way, I think can hear us, but she just is muted and cannot unmute. So I think she's on here too as our chairman. So just to let y'all know. But anyway, that's the only change that we had was one, the special meeting would be more than 24 hours, and it would change from not less than 5 days to more than 24 hours. And so then it would be 24 hours or less would be an emergency meeting. And like I say, both of those are in code 30-4-80 of the code of so.
Okay. All right. Well, you've explained it well enough for me. I think this satisfies my concern. If it fits, I wish Stephanie were not muted. I'd like to hear if this is okay with her. I mean, she's the chairman, so.
Well, I can't imagine it's not. I mean, I wouldn't think. The only other thing on here was we were adding it in here to where the chairman could approve the agenda of full commission meetings. And
so, if I could be heard real quick, Barry, in looking at 30-4-80, at least 24 hours notice has to be given for the posting, right? So I mean, two folks. If two folks vote on it, the way this is set up, it says we can call it with more than 24 hours notice. So 24 hours and 1 minute notice is enough. But the posting has to be done at least 24 hours, right? Which is tricky because I mean you have to get. I guess a switch from 5 days to 24 hours is a pretty big move. And the 5 days was in there originally, basically to accommodate schedules, things like that.
That's right.
Since we're all volunteers and we all have other businesses and things like that, you know, sometimes 24 hours notice, it's hard to free up time if you have, you know, essentially a day's notice on some of these. And I guess why such a dramatic move? Why can't it be 48 hours?
I'm fine with 48.
Well, we can make it 48.
I'm just asking the question. It does. I like that we set up the new thing with the emergency meetings. I think that was a great sort of change that we set up. But these special meetings, it just worries. I especially, quite frankly, with my schedule, sometimes it's hard. You ask me to clear up time in 24 hours. That can be super difficult for me.
Well, I don't doubt it would be difficult for people to always, you know, make a meeting, but what we're trying to prevent is having to use the word emergency in these meetings that we have to call right away. And 5 days, sometimes we don't have 5 days, but I don't have any problem, just like David just said, with 48 hours instead of 24.
I'd be a lot more comfortable with 48 hours. That's just me personally.
Let's move it to 48. I was actually sort of thinking the same thing myself. So you know, if somebody wanted something faster than the next day, which happened to be 30 hours, that almost does sound like an emergency. So special meetings, I'm game for 48. Chairman. How are you on that, Barry?
I'm fine with that. Let's just change that to 48 hours for the bylaws and bring it to the commission next month.
Okay.
Understanding that we'll have to have 5 out of the 7 people on the commission to vote for this in order for it to pass.
Right.
And then it'll be this thing says less than 24 hours. It should say 24 hours. I mean, it should say 23 hours or less would be an emergency meeting then.
What's the code?
No,
say?
less than 24 hours is the right language, I think. Because it could be 23 and a half hours, right? We announced it at 1 o'clock for the meeting at 12:30. Yeah. I think less than 24 hours.
The code says, David, the same thing as what we have here. 24 hours is a special meeting, and 20. I mean, and less than. It says 24 hours or less is what the code says for an emergency meeting. So we need to say that to say 24 hours or less.
It just needs to reflect what the code says. That's all. And the problem that we had before, a special meeting should just reflect. If the code's fine with that, then that's whatever. So if 48 does not conflict,
the code's fine with more than 24 hours, but we're making ours 48 is all we're saying. The code's fine with anything more than 24.
Okay.
We're just making ours 48. I mean, we read it before, but I mean, we can read it again, but that's what it says.
We would be fine with the code, but out of sync with our own special rules.
That's right.
But 48 is fine. Let's go ahead and move on with that if everybody's on board with 48.
Okay, we'll do 48 and then 24 for the other one. So it'd really be 24 hours. I mean, 48, less than 48 hours would be, in that case, less than 48 hours would be an emergency meeting, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for our bylaws purposes, okay. Do we have that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You want to say section 3 to say no more than 48 hours, and under emergency meetings, you want it to be changed to say those announced 24 hours or less before the meeting.
Not no more than 48 hours. It should be provided more than 48 hours. Notice the time and place be subject, be given by the chairman. You said no more than 48 hours in section 3. It should be 48, more than 48 hours.
Under the special section, no more than.
No, not no more. Yeah, not the word no should not appear there.
Oh, okay.
It should say more than 48 hours, and the other should say less than that. In other words, less than 48 hours would be, where it says less than 24, it would say less than 48.
Right.
Because less than 48 would make it an emergency meeting, because we either have to have a special meeting or emergency meeting, either one. We don't have any other options here except regular meetings, which we have every month. So that's the 3 options we have.
Correct. So yeah, number 3 under special will say more than 48 hours. And then under emergency, we'll say those announced 24 hours or less before the meeting.
Well, actually, wouldn't it be 23 hours or less? I mean, wouldn't it be just under? You're muted.
No, I think the less than 24. I think the less than 24 is it's less than 24. I think is the proper language.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it like that. Just say less than 24. Okay. 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 You got it, Colleen. I was wrong. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
The only other thing on here is that, like I just said, is that it says under the meetings, Article 4, under meetings, which is on the same page 9. Well, it's on page 19 of my booklet here, David. And it says that the chairman may approve the agenda of a full commission meeting. So basically, either the executive director or the chairman can approve a special meeting or an emergency meeting is what the agenda for it, so that we can get it out if we needed to, kind of thing, instead of, in other words, in the past, it's really been the executive director to approve those, but we wanted to give two people an option so that we could get it out if we needed to.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay, if there's not an objection to either one of those things, I'm gonna, in 10 seconds, I'm gonna approve the changes to the bylaw to be brought before the commission this month. Later this month and next week and a half or so. And so let me give it 5 seconds here. Okay, it's approved. Next item on the agenda is under tab 3 is the video surveillance camera policy, which I have been asked to defer to the new committee on that Stephanie has created for our regional centers, the task force, the regional center task force, for them to make, not to vote on anything, but just to make recommendations to us as to what this should say, because there's going to be some changes to this video surveillance policy, and we wanted to get their recommendations first before we delved into what those changes would be. I think there'll be some, it is my understanding there'll be quite a number of additional cameras installed based on what's legal and what's not, and we have to get into all that. So so we are going to bring this to that committee if nobody on the committee has an objection for whenever they meet, or whenever they decide to meet it, and then whenever they bring out their recommendations to us. I'm actually on that committee, so I'll be aware of what they're doing. But when they bring that back to us, then we'll bring up the video surveillance at regional centers policy, which we've had since 2019.
Are you moving to carry it over?
Yes, sir.
Are you asking that we carry over?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay.
I'm just carrying it over to that committee, and then it'll come back to us.
Okay.
I don't know when it'll come back to us, but it will come back.
Keep moving.
Okay.
Barry, the reason I've got to sign off at 5 o'clock. We got a family thing going on that's got the whole family involved, and I didn't realize we'd be going for over an hour and a half. But excuse me for moving.
We started at 3:30. I know we got to move on. Sorry. Next item on the agenda is the directives and standards for the first quarter that we have basically this is just simply, it won't take us much longer, I don't think, unless somebody has an objection. This is simply giving you all an idea as to what we're going to be deciding in the first quarter and what we're going to be discussing in the first quarter, at least part of what we'll be discussing in the first quarter of this year. We want to make sure that all these policies are on there in order to be on our same approval rate that we have been on, and these are the ones we've chosen to put for the next quarter, and we just wanted to put those in the packet so that everybody would be aware of that. And
so we're not taking action today on anything under section C. It is simply informational. These are what we're going to be looking at. Is that correct?
Right, unless somebody has an objection to wanting to move something else or do something else differently. Yes, I mean, obviously we don't have to necessarily vote on this, but if there is an objection, I want to hear it. Obviously, it's just Susan and I had gone over this and decided these are the ones that we would for the next quarter we would felt like was most important for whatever reason for the next quarter. It's not truly in importance order. It's just really in order of prudent order more than importance, really. I mean, there's the second quarter stuff is not necessarily more or less important than the first. It's just what we can't get but so many in a quarter, and so we made a decision to do these. And a lot of this is based on age of how long it's been since it's been looked at before. Since it's been looked at before. But there will be things added to this list. This is not all we're going to discuss, is what I'm getting at here today. This is not all we're going to discuss. It's only a part. There'll be obviously other policies that we'll bring up from time to time as needed for any policy that we have, or to revisit any policy. As we all know, we've revisited the bylaws several times. And so we'll revisit whatever policy is necessary. But this is by no means an exhaustive list or the entire list. It's just a good idea of what we're planning on doing.
Looks good to me.
Okay, if there's no objection to that, I'm going to move that I'm going to just say that's what we're going to do. We don't really have to vote on this necessarily. I do want to say the next thing is, I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Oh, I am forgetting something. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We are, and in section 3, we are referring to staff on these policies that are on here. These 5 policies that are on here, we're going to be deferring those to staff, but we'll get to those as we defer them to staff. We'll obviously be on the agenda, just to let you know. They'll be on the agenda that we deferred them, but that'll give you the idea of which ones we're going to defer there. And then the last item on the agenda for today is that we will that we're hoping that these directives are going to be as far as we know, these directives are going to be ready for review by the end of the month. Is that correct?
That's correct. They'll be out by the end of the month for public comment. Right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, they'll be out. These 3 will be out for public comment by the end of the month.
So that's 50210 DD, 70003 DD, and 73801 DD. Right.
Right.
Make sure.
That's right. Which is transition of individuals from regional centers. This is stuff that we tried to do last year and didn't get around to, and so we're trying to get around to it again this year. And the informed choice in living preference and the discard of planning of those would leave with ICFs and IDFs enrolling in intellectual disability and related disability waivers. And she just gave the numbers. The key thing to that is that that we're trying to get that out for public comment, obviously. And just for all those listening, in case there's anybody new, I doubt it is. But if it is, just bear in mind the public comment is something we do as a courtesy. We're not required by law to do public comment, but we will be doing it as we have in the past this year, just like in other years. Keeping in mind that we can do an emergency if we need to, and it can be approved without public comment if it's in it's within our authority to do that. We try not to do that, but none of these are an emergency, so we will be putting them up for public comment just like normal. And that is, I'm going to double check because I feel like I'm missing something.
I think that's it.
Colleen, do you know of anything I missed?
No, sir. Looks like you are good. The last thing on the item is adjournment. Right.
Just want to make sure we didn't miss anything. It felt like I did. Okay. And we obviously have some things to refer to the Finance and Audit Committee, which we will do as the months go by. We may do all of them at one time. I'll talk to Colleen about that and see more another day. But the next item on the agenda is the adjournment. So before I say that, can I say, is there anything else anybody would like to discuss here today or add to the agenda before we get off?
And again, I want to thank everybody for accommodating my schedule by moving the meeting back 30 minutes. That was exactly what I needed in order to be able to make the meeting today. So thank you very much.
No problem at all. I understand we have other jobs other than this one, although sometimes it feels like this is our job, but it's really not. It truly is not.
It's just our second job, right?
Exactly, but it truly is a second job, and that's not an exaggeration. But anyway, it is an enjoyable job and all that. I don't mean to belittle that. I'm just saying it is truly a lot. And as I said in my prayer, I do appreciate everybody who's on it and who does what they can do. So is there a, and brings
I move we adjourn. I move we adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourning. Is there a second?
Second.
We have to have a motion to second to adjourn, but once we get that, we are adjourned. So see y'all later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Mr. Mitchell. Appreciate you running the meeting.
Thank you very much, sir.
Y'all have a good day.
You too.